Once again, we find the world in a perilous situation. And first and foremost, our hearts and minds go out to the people of Ukraine, fighting for independence and democracy, and to the Jewish communities stranded in this dire situation. It's unsettling for people all over the world, and especially for children who only recently emerged from COVID and crave and yearn some stability and predictability. So the purpose of this short presentation is to give parents of primary school children the tools to be able to talk to their children about current events and, above all, to reassure them. Let me begin with 3 practical points. It's so important, first and foremost, that we don't allow a constant news stream into our kitchens. Whilst our children need to be informed, they do not need to be overexposed, because children can't place things in proper context. We need to watch the conversations we're having with other adults, because children pick up fragments, and those fragments can be confusing and even scary. Second practical point. When talking to young children, our body language is more important than our words. The way in which we say will communicate so much more than what we say. If we speak calmly, they feel calm. If we have anxiety, they pick up anxiety. Now that isn't always easy when we ourselves are actually feeling anxious, but we've got to try and create a settled space when talking about difficult issues and bring that children into that settled space. Third practical point. It's fascinating to note that children feel reassured when they are told the truth. If they feel we're hiding something from them, then they worry about what we are hiding. That does not mean that we tell them the whole truth, but what we tell them must be wholly truthful. The whole truth might not be appropriate, too graphic, too much, but what we do tell them must be wholly truthful. Children are very resilient and very adaptable, and when they've understood, they can absorb and then they can move on. Now let's present 4 principles for answering tricky questions. Let's call these the core principles, because every answer has to have core principles. C, clarity. O, openness. R, reassurance. And E, empathy. So in this situation, the clarity is as follows. We might take a map or a globe and show them where Russia is and where the Ukraine is, and explain that Russia is a very, very large country and the Ukraine used to be part of Russia. And President Putin wants to take the Ukraine back. Of course, this is a terrible thing to do because the people of Ukraine want their own country. But this is a war between Russia and Ukraine. It isn't a war that involves other countries. That's the clarity and the reassurance. Other countries are very annoyed and they're very upset with President Putin, and they are criticizing him for what he's doing because it's wrong. But it doesn't involve other countries. Openness. If you've got any questions about it, you can always come and ask me. Or if you hear something in school that you're not clear about, please come and talk to me. Now, I personally wouldn't raise what's called a nuclear alert with children unless you think they're going to hear it in school or unless they ask you about it. If they do, we follow the same principles. Clarity. It's true that Russia has nuclear weapons. It's true. But here's reassurance. Russia does not want to use nuclear weapons, quite simply because Russia wants to win the war. And in a war with nuclear weapons, nobody wins at the end, everybody loses. And they really, really want to win. So we have clarity, openness, reassurance, and empathy. To acknowledge to our children that this is a scary situation, and we can feel scared, and to talk to them and give space for their fear. And hopefully by talking it through and explaining it, we'll be able to assuage their fears and help them understand the context of it all. But it's so vital that we give time and attention to the anxieties they may have. And finally, action is a great antidote to anxiety. If there's a campaign for clothes or a campaign for funds, then let's get involved as a family. Maybe every night we could say a prayer for the people of the Ukraine and the Jewish communities in Ukraine. And that way our children feel that they themselves are making a difference. May Hashem bless all of us with peace and bring peace to the world.